on the board. So we're doing exactly the same thing that we just did, except it involves a fraction, right? So we've got z plus 3/4 is equal to 1 and 1/4. Okay, so what is hanging out over there with that variable that is keeping it from being isolated? What's hanging out with it, guys?
A z of 3/4.
Yeah, that 3/4 needs to go, right? Because again, we're trying to get the variable isolated. We're trying to get it by itself. So we're going to cancel out a plus 3/4. What is the inverse of plus 3/4? What's the opposite of 3/4? Oh my gosh.
4/3.
No, that's reciprocal. Minus 3/4. Okay? And of course, what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Okay? So that's going to cancel on the left-hand side. That's going to leave you with a z. So now in order to get our final solution, we have to subtract 1 and 1/4 minus 3/4. So this is where I'm getting ready to show you how that calculator is going to do some magic for you. Okay? So 1 and 1/4 minus 3/4 is the problem we're going to do. So in my calculator, I want to I'm going to open the parentheses, and to do the number 1 and 1/4, I'm going to do 1 plus 1 divided by 4 and close the parentheses. So that's how we make a mixed number. So 1 plus 1 divided by 4. We're going to subtract, open the parentheses. 3/4 is 3 divided by 4. We're going to close the parentheses, hit enter. Now obviously that's a decimal. Do we have any decimals down here in the answer box? No. So we got to turn it back to a fraction. So what button do we hit? Chris, I know you know.
The math. Button.
Math.
And then hit fraction.
And the very first button is fraction. Hit enter. 1/2. Not that a lot of you guys probably didn't already know that 0.5 is the same thing as 1/2. Okay, and I'm going to skip to number 3 really quickly. Because number 2, I think, is exactly like number 1. But number 3 is a little bit different. Okay, so again, we're trying to get that z isolated, right? We're trying to get it by itself. But right now, there's a 1 and 3/8 that is hanging out there with it. So we are going to get rid of that 1 and 3/8 by doing a minus 1 and 3/8, which is just going to cancel it out on that side and leave the z by itself. However, what we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So we got to do 9 and 7/8 minus 1 and 3/8. Okay, so you guys try to type that in the calculator based on the example I just gave you for how you would make a mixed number. So we're putting in 9 and 7/8 minus 1 and 3/8. So try to type that in there. So 9 and 7/8 minus 1 and 3/8. Try to type that in there yourself. Number 3, ma'am. So, because remember, you've got to do the opposite of plus 1 and 7/8, so you got to subtract. So that's why we're subtracting. So 4 and 1/8 is going to be 4 plus 1 divided by 8. Close the parentheses. Minus, open the parentheses, 1 plus 3 divided by 8. How'd I get the 3? Because I'm subtracting 1 and 3/8 right there, ma'am.
That's number 5.
Ah, snap. Thank you. So actually, the real answer would be I'm just losing my mind right now. Thank you for keeping me straight. Okay, so let me do it again with the actual correct number, okay? That would be the 1 and 7/8. Sorry. Thank you, ma'am. All right, so I'm going to open the parentheses. 4 plus 1 divided by 8. Close the parentheses. Minus, let's do it correctly this time. 1 plus 7 divided by 8. Close it. Gets me a decimal. How do I turn it back to a fraction? Math. Fraction. Just keep hitting enter. Now, it says 9 divided by 4, or 9/4. We don't see a 9/4 down there, do we? Okay, so let's see how we turn that 9/4 into an answer we can work with. So 9/4. To turn it back into a mixed number, you do 9 divided by 4. How many times does 4 go into 9? Twice, right? 2 times 4 is 8, so you have 1 left over. So it's going to be 2 and then 1 out of 4.
Yeah, that's what I just threw me for a
That did? Oh, I need to do a better job explaining it then. Okay, so we're going to do 9 divided by 4. How many times does 4 go into 9? Twice, right? 2 times 4 is 8, so I have 1 remainder. So that means I have the whole number 2, and then the remainder becomes the numerator. It's 1, so I have 1 left over out of 4. So that's where my fraction came from. I had 1 left over, so what you have left over becomes your numerator, so it's going to be that one right there. Okay, well, so y'all try the rest of those.